This is not financial advice. Shout out to the Discord family. Now, this is lesson 3. At this point in the lesson, you should have already taken all 3 parts of lesson 1, all 3 parts of lesson 2. I take this very seriously. So I want you to take this in order. And now we're going to get to options Greeks, which is more technical than it was before. So if you have a pencil and notepad or you're ready to take notes, now's the time. Also, I want to start this one off and say, forgive yourself for not knowing certain things and be comfortable in that, so then you can go on and then learn. You have to be open to learn instead of getting defensive when you get new information. The quality of this one is going to be really, really ready for you to replay it. I want you to think of it just like that. So we're going to go straight through it, and this is options Greeks. Let's go. So now, the first thing that I want you to think about is this: the itemized list of what we're going to cover. Who needs to know the Greeks? What are the Greeks? When should you use the Greeks? Where are the Greeks found? Why is it important to know the Greeks? And how do the Greeks impact the options values? So now, let's start off. Who needs to know the Greeks? If you are ever buying a call option, a put option, or selling a call option or a put option, and again, you should have already taken lessons 1 and 2 completely so you can step up to the 3rd level. So now, if you're buying an option, any option, or selling an option, any option, you need to understand what the Greeks are. So who needs to know them? Anyone who is doing any options. So now let's keep it going. What are the Greeks? So you may have heard of Poseidon, the god of the ocean. You may have heard of Zeus, the god of lightning, or things like that. Ares, the god of war. So each one of the Greek gods from Olympus, they had their own individual things that they controlled. And that sort of was inherently placed on these Greek options pieces. So let's take a look. Here are their names over here on the right. You have Delta, Gamma, Theta, and Vega. There are more, but these are the important ones. Okay, so now take a look at this. 2 of them are in control of the price. And these are really important to know, and we'll get to each one of them individually. So now we have Delta, we have Gamma. They're telling us about the price. This is what do they tell you. You have Theta. It tells you about what happens in time as time passes. And then you have implied volatility. And again, if you don't understand this, again, I want you to forgive yourself for not understanding it. But in time, you will. You have to be open and come into this with an open mind and be willing to take notes and or watch it back. That's the great thing about watching this in video format. You can watch it again and you can rewind. So let's keep it going. If you were to buy a call option, like in lesson 1, or buy a put option, like in lesson 2, you'll see that we have our $8 strike, and currently this option costs 5 cents. But remember, you have to buy it in sections of 100. So this will be $5, right? So when should you use the Greeks? If you're going to buy a call or buy a put, you want to use the Greeks. If you're going to sell a call or sell a put, you want to use the Greeks. So for example, in a put option, remember, call options, you think they're going to go up. And then when you buy a put option, you think it's going to go down. So if you buy a call, you think it's going to go up. Puts, you think it's going to go down. So now in this case, let's say that we were to click on here, because where are the Greeks found? So right here in this Robinhood user interface, and we're using this one. Why? For the sole fact that it's an easy user interface. So if you were to click on this right here in this red box, you would then see the Greeks, and they would pop up on the bottom of the screen. So where are they? They're on the bottom of the screen. So now it says the Greeks. You see Delta, Gamma, Theta, Vega, and Rho. But we're not going to talk about Rho. It's not relevant at this very point right now. It's beyond the scope of what we're talking about. So let's keep it going. Why is it important to know the Greeks? You need to know how an option is going to move in time or in value. So let's say you were to look at this right here. Look at the bid. What are people trying to pay for this? They're trying to pay 4 cents, or in this case, it would be $4 because you have to buy it in hundreds. And they're trying to sell it for $5. But you look at the Greeks and they tell you, okay, you see 0.08, you see 10. Okay, what do these things mean, right? So let's get to it. The first one is Delta. So how do the Greeks impact the value of an option? Let's look at Delta. You have to compare it to what you paid. So this is Delta. And remember, Delta is kind of like Zeus. It's the top dog. It's the king of all of the rest of the Greeks. It's the king of all of them, right? So take a look at this. Let's say that you paid the ask. You wanted to buy this option literally right now. You would pay the ask price. So if you paid the ask, your option would cost you 5 cents. But remember, it's $5. So 5 cents. And what is Delta? Delta's number is 0.08. So what does this do? It gives you the value if the underlying stock moves up by $1. Now, let's break that down and let's unpack that. What is the underlying stock? The underlying stock is BNGO. At the time of this recording, BNGO is about $5. If you got into this call option, this $8 call option, and look at BNGO down here, it's $5, and you picked the $8 call option, what would happen if the stock, the underlying stock, BNGO, went from $5 to $6 and you bought this already? You bought this one already for $5. If that happened, then you look at Delta to tell you. So again, the option cost you 5. Delta is telling you 8 over here. It's telling you 8. But then if BNGO went from $5 to $6, then all of a sudden your option wouldn't have gone up $1. You would have hit the home run, because in order to hit the home run, you paid $5. You would have needed it to go to $10, but look, it would have gone to 13. So when you want to find out what is an option going to do, if it goes up, the stock goes up just $1, you take a look at Delta. And Delta, you add it to whatever you paid, and then boom, you get your new value, the value of your current option. So anyone trying to buy it now, they would have to pay 13 cents, whereas you paid 5, and then it went up $1, and then you see what happens. But there is more to the price action of the options. Now let's go on to the next part. Price is determined by two things together when it moves, not just $1, but what if it was to move $2? What if it was to go from 5 to 6? Now, if it was to go from 5 to 6, we already know that we have a value of 13 right now because we went from 5 to 6. BNGO went from 5 to 6, so our option is now worth 13. But what if it was to go from 6 to 7? It moves up a whole nother dollar. Then we add Delta and Gamma. At this point, we add Delta again and then add Gamma to it as well. So now it went up $1, we got to 13. We went from 5 to 13. It goes up $2. Now we go from 13, and then we add Delta again. We add Gamma again. So take a look. Delta is 0.08 and Gamma is 0.10. So if we have a $13, it's worth $13 and we paid 5 because we already went up $1, great. What if it goes from 6 to 7 now? If it goes from 6 to 7, then we add these two numbers up, which would be 13 plus 8 plus 10, which would be $31. Now, let's unpack this a little bit more because I know it's a lot to take in at once. Let's go back and let's think about this. We got into an $8 call. Currently, the stock price is $5. What would happen if the stock price shot up and it went from 5 to 6? Then, if it went from 5 to 6, we would move up Delta. And then we would have an option that it used to be worth 5, but now it's worth 13. But what if BNGO went from 5 to 6 and then to 7? 5 to 6 and then to 7, right? It's really running up. Now, this is only $2 for anybody who purchased the stock. But anybody who picked up the $8 call option, they would go from 5 to 6, and they would go basically from 5 cents to 13 cents. They hit the home run already just on a $1 move. And then if it went from 6 to 7, then you add Delta and Gamma together. So then it would go from 5, just from $1 move, to 13. And then the second dollar move, it would add in 18 more, Delta and Gamma. So then it would be up to 31 cents. So that means you just turned $5 into $31. So this is why when you see so many people with 10,000%, oh, look, I ran this option and it's up 800%, it's up this many percent. It's because they got a far out option and then they actually got kind of lucky in a sort. It could be for many reasons, could be news, all kind of different things. But then it ran up in this way and it really went to their favor. So then Delta and then Gamma actually crushed it. So now let's keep going. It's not all good. It's not all good in terms of the price. So there's a thing called theta, and it's called theta gata, like an alligator. So theta gata, it chews away and eats away at your options price no matter what. So theta is here, and theta is negative always, whether you buy a call or you buy a put. When you're buying options, theta does not work in your favor. Theta takes away. So let's say again, you paid 5 cents, right? 0.05 for your option. That's the ask price. Theta is the number that's going to tell you. So theta is 0.005. You want theta to be as low as possible, especially if you plan on holding it for multiple days. So in this case, theta is basically 0.005, like we see over here. So how do you find out what's going to happen after holding this for one day? You're basically going to lose theta in value if the stock stays exactly the same. So if our BNGO call doesn't move at all, it don't move. If it doesn't move at all and it stays from $5 one day and then the next day we're still holding it and it's still exactly flat $5, we are going to lose theta. We're going to lose theta, and then our option that we paid 5 cents for is now worth 4.5 cents. So let's keep it going. There's another one called Vega. Now, Vega is not as, you don't need to look at Vega every single time you get into an option, but it's good to know. And this one is more technical than the other ones. So I need you to put on your listening hat for this one. So here we go. Vega represents an option sensitivity to volatility. So when there are things like news catalysts, like you know what happens to Tesla stock when it starts to run up. More people want to jump in. So then the implied volatility is really, really, really high. And I'll explain what that means in a second and how it works. So when you expect something to be really, really volatile, Vega is what is going to interact with that volatility and then give you a certain price on your options, right? So again, Vega represents an option sensitivity to volatility. Imagine that Tesla, people were to start doing this self-driving again, right? And they really were to let it roll out and then everyone started to crash, right? Then the implied volatility, it would be really impacted because people would expect the underlying stock, Tesla, to be really, really volatile, right? So then Vega would interact with the implied volatility. You go and you look at Vega and you notice over here is 0.0018. But again, you're not going to need Vega in most of the time. This one is like more of a high level one where you really want to look because you're ready to get really high level with it. So now let's take a look at this. It's calculated like so, or it's used like so. You have the new volatility and the old volatility, right? So new volatility, old volatility, you have 21.5, and then the old volatility, you have 20. The change in volatility is 1.5. So we went from 21.5, we went down to 20. The change in volatility is 21.5. So whenever you see implied volatility, you want it to be low. You prefer it to be low so you don't get what's called implied volatility crushed, IV crushed. You do not want to get IV crushed. This will crush your option even if it is going in the right direction. Even if you bought a call option and it's going in the right direction and you bought it when the implied volatility was like 500% and then it came down to 50 or 100%, you would lose a lot of money on that. But it's because of things like this. So now let's see. Once you get your implied volatility change, you use that and Vega interacts with that. So new volatility minus the old volatility times Vega equals the change in your options premium. So now the options premium is what you paid or what it is worth, right? So then notice that the change in volatility, it dropped by 1.5%. So then Vega and their Vega was 1.2. So then what is Vega's effect? It's going to be the change in applied volatility times Vega, whatever Vega is, and then you get a number. And that number happens to be 18 here. So then what do? You just add it to whatever you paid. You add it to whatever you paid. So the premium that you paid, 7.5, then you would just add Vega to this, boom. And then you get 7.68. So in this case, with the implied volatility actually coming down on this option, it worked out for whoever bought this one. It really worked out for them. But generally, you want to get into a play when the implied volatility is very, very, very low. Now, let's bring it all together and let's make it make some sense. Let's say you wanted to get into a call. Now, this one is when should you use the Greeks? Whenever you look at an option, you need to go to the Greeks and see if it's making sense. Because I always tell you, if an option is not going your way, you got to get out of the play. So now, what do I mean by that? Let's look at 3 key things that you have to look at every time you get into an option. It's the ask and the bid, but preferably the ask. If you want to get in right now, you hit the ask. And currently, this would cost you $24. This is a SPY, the ETF, the SPY, right? And it's a $462 call option for November 1st, which is very, very soon from the time of this recording. So this is a really high risk, high reward play. How do you know it's high risk, high reward? Let's look at the reward and then let's look at the risk. So you pay $24 to get into this. The reward is delta. So delta is telling you that, you know what? If this thing goes up, if the SPY goes up $1, the SPY just goes up $1. You pay 24 for this. This entire thing is going to move up by $15 right on top of that. Right on top of that, family. So you would immediately turn this into $15 more and you only paid $24 for it. So you'd be way up just on a $1 move. But where's the risk? The risk is here. The risk is delta. Or I'm sorry, the risk is theta. Look at theta, time decay. Now, theta is 18. Look at what you paid. You paid 24, but if you hold on to this thing for 1 day and it does not move, the stock stays the exact same, you're going to lose $18 on this. You would lose $18 immediately, 24, and then you would lose 18. So what if you tried to hold it for 2 days? You would just be losing money like crazy. So then you need to know the Greeks because they give you the opportunity to say, okay, how long am I going to be in this play? If I was to personally buy this one, I would get out in the same day because I don't want to lose $18 even if it went up $1 and I added the 15 over to the 24, but then I stayed in it overnight, then guess what? I would lose that theta. As soon as market open, I would see it and I would be down by theta. So then understand that. That's how it works. Now, family, what I want you to do is basically be on the lookout. Watch this one again so you can be fully in understanding of what we just said here, and then be ready for the quiz to come out and then the review. So we have this lesson right here. We're going to have the quiz come out after it, and then we're going to have the review of the quiz. So if you need to watch this again, remember, I want you to thoroughly understand this. This is why I put the time into these things, because again, I tell you, I want to teach you how to fish. I want you to really understand what you're doing so you're not confused. And again, if this is all new to you and it's going in one ear, not the other one, if you watch it over again, you're going to pick up a little bit more. But you have to dedicate the time to say, you know what? The information is right in front of me. All I have to do is eat. All I have to do is ingest. And then we're going to get it just like that, family. But again, I love y'all. I see you in the Discord, family. And if you can't handle the heat of these hot stocks, then stay out of the kitchen and consider investing in the index funds. I love y'all. Take care.